Hey guys, welcome back to the Southern Philippines. Today I'm going to talk about why I don't worry about typhoons living here in the Philippines. I've got a lot of questions in the comments. I've gotten several emails about how I prepare for typhoons. Do I not worry about typhoons? How do typhoons affect me here in the Philippines? Mostly from foreigners who have come to the Philippines or who haven't been to the Philippines and are curious because when they think of the Philippines, they think about typhoons. And there's a good reason why.
You got the white knuckles holding on a tight, keeping your feelings bought.
So the Philippines gets hammered by typhoons all of the time, and sometimes it makes international news because of how devastating some of the typhoons are. In fact, yesterday we had a huge typhoon, not where I'm at, but up in the Luzon area, that caused a lot of damage and some loss of life. So it's understandable why people are curious about that, but every place in the Philippines is different. So I'm the great typhoon dodger actually in the Philippines. I came here, can't remember if it was either back in 2015, 2016, but I was flying into Manila. It was very briefly. I was monitoring the news. There was a typhoon developing off the coast, and sure enough, it hit Manila like, I think 2 days before I landed. It was gone by the time that I got there, so I missed it when I landed. Immediately got on a plane the next day to go down to Davao in the southern Philippines, where I'm currently at. And again, while I was in the Philippines for that 3-week period, Manila got hit again by a tropical depression while I was down in Davao. And then when I flew back to Manila to go back to the United States 3 weeks later, as soon as I got on the plane, by the time I had gotten, I think I was flying through Japan that time. So when I got to Tokyo, there was already a typhoon warning, and the very next day, Manila got hit again. So in the span of 1 month between typhoons or tropical depressions, they got hit 3 times in the less than 3 weeks I was there. I just missed every single one of them because I was either in a different part of the Philippines or I was leaving the country or on the way in. So what a lot of people just don't realize when they think about the Philippines, unless they're obviously Filipinos, is that the Philippines is a huge place. It covers a ton of territory. Basically, if you were to impose it over a map of like the United States, it would basically start up in Michigan and go all the way down to almost Florida as far as the length goes. It's a really, really big place with thousands of different islands. And naturally, because it covers so much territory, not every place in the Philippines is the same. So the place that I'm in the Philippines, I don't have to worry about typhoons. In fact, where I live, the city that I'm currently living in right now, hasn't had a typhoon hit here in my lifetime. The last typhoon, I actually talked to some of my in-laws to find out, and they had a typhoon in 1970. So it was before I was born. In fact, I think that's the year my mom graduated high school or something. So not in my lifetime has this place in the Philippines been hit. And there's a good reason for that, which I'll go into. The reason for that is because of the Coriolis Effect, or the Coriolis force. And what that is the best way to think of it is when you have tropical storms or these cyclonic activities out in the ocean, they suck the air into the center, and that's how they form. But the way that, because of this force, the air moves across the surface of the earth, it doesn't move in a straight line. So as that air is getting sucked into these cyclones, as they're forming, it starts to create a turning motion. So if you're north of the equator, that turning motion is going to go counterclockwise. So hurricanes in the North Atlantic, we see them going counterclockwise and then generally moving north or sideways. And then if you are south of the equator, then the force is going to cause it to turn in a clockwise fashion. And so as far as I know, I'm only aware of one time to where a hurricane has actually been able to cross over the equator from north to south because of that countervailing force. And I think they discovered that back in the 2000s. They saw it, tracked it with satellites and saw that happen. So because the force is so weak near the equator, the tropical storms do not form there. So again, I'm only about 1 degree outside of that zone, so it's not impossible, but it is so unlikely that I don't have to worry about it. And again, in my entire lifetime, the town that I'm in right now has never been hit. So this was definitely something when I was moving to the Philippines and we were coming here that we took into consideration as far as natural disasters go. As far as my wife is terrified of typhoons, doesn't want to be anywhere in the Visayas or Luzon, which Luzon seems to be like the catcher glove of typhoons for the Pacific Ocean. And she fears those, and rightly so. I grew up in late elementary school and in middle school in the United States in Florida, and we were in hurricane zones and we would get hit occasionally, and we would have property damage. There would be, you know, a few days where you wouldn't be able to get you'd have to get drinking water, power outages and stuff like that. And one time I was actually, the worst one I was ever in, I was on an island called Captiva Island, which is off of the coast of Florida in the Gulf of Mexico, and I was staying in a condominium. I think I was 12 or 13 years old. When the middle of the night I woke up and there's like lightning and stuff, went back to bed, and what had happened was a tropical depression had formed over the island right off of the coast, and it had changed from a tropical depression to a tropical storm. And so the next morning when we got up and we went outside, the entire island was flooded. The power was out for days. You know, basically you had to eat anything you had in the refrigerator because that was all the food there was, and it was going to go bad very quickly. And the bridge that was connecting Captiva Island to Sanibel Island, which connected the causeway back to the mainland, was wiped out. You couldn't drive off of the island. The only way to go at that point was boats. So we were basically stranded there. And the island was flooded. So where the waters that had come in, my parents' car, they had a minivan at the time, and the water came all the way up just barely below to where the door opened. So fortunately the van didn't get destroyed or anything, but it was underwater, you know, quite a bit. The swimming pool was underwater. I mean, everything was. And there was some guy that had got caught in it in a boat off of, I wanted to say, the coast of Texas, and he was trying to figure out where he was. We went down to the beach and he's like, "Can you tell us where we're at?" "I don't know where we're at." And we were like, "Yeah, you're in Captiva, you're off the coast of Florida." And so I guess his navigational equipment went out. He was kind of shocked. So anyway, this was a long time ago on there, but those storms can be devastating, and I never want to get caught in one of those again. So even when I go and visit, or if I were to move to regions like that, I would have some sort of evacuation plan. Now, we're not immune to natural disasters here. We have earthquakes and stuff like that, and that's probably a topic for another video. Although we did have a really big, what I consider a really big earthquake here the other day. It was like a 5.5. I actually videoed it right after it happened, so you don't see the earthquake, but you can see my reaction. I'll drop it in right here. Oh my God. So we just had like a huge earthquake, and it was like shaking the whole friggin' house. Seemed to last forever. Apparently it was only like 20 or 30 seconds, but it was like, I mean, the whole house was shaking every which way but loose. So I've come out because we're checking for cracks, and you can see here it's separated where the dirty kitchen goes into the house. So I don't know how safe this is. I guess somebody's gonna have to come out and check this. This is two different concrete walls where the main house is, which doesn't seem to have too much in it. And this add-on additional dirty kitchen, you can see it's separated. I don't know if you can see that or not up there at the top. So don't get a lot of earthquakes here in this area, but I mean, it's a matter of, it does happen. So that kind of shook me up. We do prepare for stuff like that, not when the event happens, but really more of the aftermath, just like we would if we were in a typhoon zone, of making sure that we've got enough fresh drinking water to last us about a week or 2 weeks or however long. And then we obviously keep dry good foods always enough to where we're going to have at least a week's worth of food just in case of emergency. I've pretty well always done that back since I was a Boy Scout, unless I was traveling, and obviously you can't carry tons of food with you when you're nomadic and flying on airplanes. But whenever I get stationary in a location, I do that. So guys, if you like this content, make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you can find this channel again, and also hit the like button so that it lets the algorithm know that this was useful, it was something that you found interesting, and then it will tell other people so that they can find it as well. It really helps the channel grow, kind of gets the message out there for people who are interested in the Philippines, who are interested in worldwide travel, who are interested in nomadic life. Guys, thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.